this is Shannon. I'll be reading new selections from the Sandwich Enterprise, dated March 14th, 2025. Our first headline is Chambers Celebrates 20th Anniversary Grants Award by Taylor Fusetti. As the Sandwich Chamber of Commerce celebrated its 20th anniversary on Wednesday, the Chamber commemorated community members for their contributions to the town of Sandwich. The event marks 20 years since Sandwich broke away from the Cape Cod Canal Region Chamber of Commerce to start its own chamber. Over the past two decades, our chamber has evolved to meet the ever-changing needs of our business community. But one thing has remained constant: our commitment to fostering collaboration, innovation, and transformation, said Sandwich Chamber of Commerce Executive Director Christine Ross. Our vision is to empower, connect, and elevate business in Sandwich. This means creating opportunities, fostering stronger relationships, and ensuring every business, new or long-standing, has the support it needs to succeed. Longtime Chamber leader Beverly A. Como gave insight into the Sandwich Chamber's beginnings. She said that the idea to break away from the regional chamber came about during a roundtable discussion involving local business owners at the Daniel Webster Inn, who aimed to advance the general welfare and prosperity of Sandwich and the surrounding area. She said that the group worked tirelessly for 2 years to gain the confidence of local businesses and had humble beginnings, being initially located on the second floor of what was once the Thornton Burgess Museum, which is now known as the Deacon Eldridge House. Sandwich Chamber Board Chairwoman Paula Johnson acknowledged the Chamber's Executive Board, Board of Directors, Chamber Ambassadors, and Welcome Center docents. As we celebrate 20 years of the Sandwich Chamber, we also look ahead to an exciting future filled with opportunities, innovation, and continued partnership, she said. Before annual awards were announced, attendees chatted with each other and enjoyed views of Town Neck Beach from the Treehouse Brewing Company, which Elevated Impressions had decorated in silver and gold balloons. 6 awards, including a Civic Leadership Award, a Community Champion Award, a Hidden Gem Award, a Community Impact Award, a Rising Star Award, and a Business Excellence Award, were given out to deserving attendees. Select Board Chairman Charles M. Holden was given the Civic Leadership Award, which recognizes an individual who has demonstrated outstanding dedication to the Sandwich community through leadership, advocacy, and service. Charlie has been a steadfast advocate for our business community, ensuring that local businesses have a voice in town leadership, Ms. Ross said. Candace Thompson was given the Community Champion Award in honor of David Merrill. The award honors an individual or business that has made a significant impact on Sandwich through advocacy. From volunteering at the polls, ensuring our elections run smoothly, to stuffing envelopes for mail-in ballots, Candace has played a key role in upholding our civic process, Ms. Ross said. She is also a dedicated volunteer at community events like Sandwich Fest, always willing to lend a hand to make our town's signature events successful. Kylie Beswick of Verbena Studio was presented with the Hidden Gem Award. The Hidden Gem Award honors businesses that may not be in the spotlight, but have a significant impact on the community. Verbena Studio has built a reputation for holistic wellness, skin care, and self-care services that nurture both body and mind, Ms. Ross said. Beyond their services, Verbena Studio actively supports local businesses, collaborates with fellow entrepreneurs, and contributes greatly to the vibrancy of the Sandwich business community. The Fund for Sandwich and the Sandwich Foundation were both presented with the Community Impact Award. By supporting nonprofit organizations across various sectors, including community development, health and human services, education, arts and culture, and the environment, The fund addresses both immediate and long-term needs, Ms. Ross said regarding the fund for Sandwich. Their commitment to preserving the essence of Sandwich while fostering growth is evident in their strategic grant-making and capacity-building initiatives. The Sandwich Foundation was also recognized for its commitment to enhancing the quality of life for Sandwich youth and families. By providing grants to under-resourced initiatives that bring fun, joy, and beauty to our community, they ensure that everyone has access to enriching experiences, Ms. Ross said. Sandy Neck Provisions owners Megan and B.J. McLaughlin were presented with the Rising Star Award. The Rising Star Award honors a business that has quickly become a vital part of the community through innovation, dedication, and exceptional service. Sandy Neck Provisions has redefined what it means to be a local business by seamlessly blending convenience, quality, and community spirit, Ms. Ross said. Catering to the off-road vehicle community and beachgoers alike, they have become the go-to destination for everything from firewood and propane to cold brew on tap, ice cream, and other beach essentials. In Good Health was presented with the Business Excellent Award, which highlights a business that exemplifies outstanding performance, innovation, and community involvement. Their vertically integrated approach ensures control over every aspect of production, from cultivation to retail, guaranteeing quality and affordability, Ms. Ross said, regarding the family-owned dispensary. Beyond their products, In Good Health actively supports the local community, embodying the values of excellence and responsibility. Each award winner had a Walk Up song as they made their way down the red carpet to receive their awards. Audience members clapped and cheered, celebrating those who have made a positive impact on the Sandwich community. Our next headline is: Protesters say proposed change to state law would lead to book bans, by Devin Ankeny. A half hour before the start of Tuesday's presentation to discuss a proposed piece of legislation seeking to change a state law regarding the illegality of disseminating obscene information to minors, dozens of protesters had already lined up in front of the Gus Ganty Community Center. The change proposes the deletion of the existing law's last sentence, which offers protection to schools, museums, and libraries. In doing so, the protesters contended these institutions would be open up to possible lawsuits that could require them to pull books discussing some topics, such as sexual identity, from their shelves on the grounds of obscenity. Many in the crowd held signs decorated with phrases like, "Free people read freely." Many were colorful and some had rainbows. The protesters came from towns across the Cape and even from off-Cape. The bill, which was brought forward by 3 Falmouth Republican Town Committee members, Diane Sue D.D. Dorrington, Pamela M. Vidal, and Susan C. Daniels, aims to protect children from being exposed to explicit and sexually graphic curricula. It does so by opening up librarians, school teachers, and museum employees to liability should they use obscene materials to provide sexual education to minors. The petitioner's definition of obscene includes books that graphically or colorically explain sex and masturbation. The petitioners say these books and materials teach promiscuity. Kim Keith, a Mashpee resident and school librarian, said otherwise. "As a school librarian, there's a process," Ms. Keith said to the Enterprise while standing among the protesters outside the meeting. She went on to explain that librarians are responsible for deciding which materials are appropriate and for which age group. Under this proposal, in doing her job, I could be arrested, she added. It's absurd. She was among several librarians who attended the event. One protester came from as far away as Hallbrook. People flooded the community center minutes before the presentation was set to begin. From the entrance to the meeting room in the back of the main floor, it was near shoulder to shoulder. People held signs as they tried to find a spot in the cramped meeting room. Children wearing taekwondo robes trickled between the many protesters on their way to their lesson at the center. Miss Dorrington, wearing a patterned dress and black leather boots, stood on one of the wooden benches in the hallway leading up to the meeting room. Head above the crowd, she said there were more people than the meeting room could hold, far more people. I have to tell you, it was very unexpected to have this kind of crowd, she said to the mass. She made her way into the meeting room where more than 50 people had packed in. Just inside the room to the left there was a long table covered with a bright red tablecloth. On it was a sign-in sheet. The room had dark red plastic seats for some. The rest were left standing. As Miss Dorrington prepared to begin, she faced the crowd. The crowd faced her, with some holding signs of protest. Behind Miss Dorrington was a wall of glass. The fluorescent overhead lights were off, and the fading orange sunlight of an early spring evening pierced the room. On the other side of the glass were many more protesters. One person held a sign that read, "Knowledge is not explicit." Others held books against the glass, among them 1984 by George Orwell, The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne, and Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. Those books, among others, delve into countercultural or anti-establishment themes. The novel 1984 is one of the most well-known anti-censorship books to date. The Scarlet Letter explores guilt and sin, and Red, White, and Royal Blue is a gay romance novel. Miss Dorrington and the 2 other petitioners did not expect their presentation to be standing room only, nor that the crowd would be largely made up of protesters. She said so several times throughout her presentation. Nevertheless, she kicked things off, the projected PowerPoint presentation becoming the focal point. The room heated up, emotionally and literally. She said the bill aims to remove a line in an existing law that protects librarians and school teachers from the obscenity law. That current exemption allows sexual education in schools and libraries to involve depictions of intercourse and the human body. In our belief, the last line is contrary to the intent of the law, Miss Dorrington said. She showed pages of educational books that depict, as cartoons or drawings, sexual acts like intercourse and masturbation. She described the materials as obscene under the state's existing legal definition, likening some of the allowed materials to Hustler magazine, which she called so obscene, so degenerate. She claimed that Hustler would be among the sexual education publications on library shelves. Among the examples presented were various books that explain sex. The goal of these books is to ensure that teenagers have safe sex rather than unsafe sex, which can lead more easily to sexually transmitted disease or unwanted pregnancies. The presenters said that the books go too far. Miss Dorrington could hardly finish a statement without interruption. Some shouted, some jeered, others interjected to ask questions. She went on to show a video depicting a cartoon minor masturbating while in private. The boy depicted was covered by a blanket. The video is a sexual education resource meant to explain why children going through puberty might feel sexual impulses that would be new to them. She described an image depicting a drawn anus alongside an explanation of anal sex. We would ask you, is this necessary in our school libraries and in our libraries throughout the town? She asked the crowd. The room kept heating up. As the presentation carried on, Miss Dorrington tried to assure the crowd that books about gender identity would not be affected. She added at various moments that the bill is not meant as a book ban. The effect, however, would almost certainly be books off the shelves, protesters said. Under the proposed legislation, a parent could sue a librarian for using obscene materials to teach sexual education, they said. If a parent won, the books would be pulled from the shelves. Opponents say that the legislation would create a standard of self-censorship enforced by threats of legal action. Nevertheless, Miss Dorrington said the legislation is not meant to stop sexual education completely, adding that she supports some sexual education. She said the legislation is meant only to censor the materials she and her fellow petitioners deem as obscene under existing state laws. One protester and attendee standing against the wall, William A. DeCorrales of Pocasset, said the legislation would open the door to more sweeping bans. These people want to put you in jail. That's what this is about, he said to the librarians in the room. I hope everybody in this room knows what a red herring is, because they don't care about all the obscenity. They want to destroy a law that gives a reasonable defense to people like her, Mr. DeCorrales added, gesturing to a librarian. That's what this is about. The crowd roared with applause. Another said the bill is opening the door to censorship. A third called it a slippery slope. Some protester signs displayed fears that passing this bill could lead to censorship of books aimed at diverse audiences, limiting access queer children or children of color have to books with characters like themselves. Further discussion followed. Tensions rose. Some attendees left in the middle of the presentation. Nearly all of those from the crowd who spoke did so in opposition to the legislation. Miss Dorrington and Miss Daniels continued to let people speak their minds. Miss Dorrington struggled with the combative and interrupting crowd, and on various occasions told the people that they were acting like a bunch of kids. At one point she told them to shut up. Several times Miss Dorrington pleaded with the crowd to let her finish. She was just presenting her beliefs, she said, and people are welcome to oppose it, but should refrain from rudely interrupting. At one point, Miss Dorrington made a direct appeal to her supporters in the room, asking for a supportive comment instead of further bombardment with protest. About an hour into the presentation, the crowd had not diminished. The crowd outside the room had grown. One person holding a sign went outside so an act of protest could be visible through the rear window of the room. Our teachers and librarians are heroes, one attendee said, standing among the seated viewers. To hold them or any employee responsible for references to sex or sexual identity, to fine or imprison them, is dangerous and morally reprehensible. A Barnstable Library director, Autumn Hastett, said that the news of the proposed legislation and presentation sent a rumble throughout her library. When I heard about this meeting, my staff was immediately upset. They sent waves through the library professional community, she said. Parents send their children on their bikes to our library without them. They trust us. We do not take advantage of that, and that's what you're attempting to strike out. You're attempting to censor, and you're disguising it with this sexualization. Several protesters questioned how truthful Miss Dorrington's assertions were. What I'm hearing from you is a sort of hearsay hype, one woman said. I'm not really hearing about any specific situations where a child has been harmed. I'm not hearing any reference to any statistics. I'm not hearing any proof, really, of any of this. Miss Dorrington declined to share numbers or evidence and said, You can take my word for it or not. One attendee said she works with children who have endured sexual abuse and that sexual education is crucial to helping those children heal. Miss Dorrington had a suggestion for her. One way to not teach children how to be sexually abused is to not create sex to be so enticing, she offered. At various times, protesters said they supported the materials presented as examples because they are important in the context of education. None said that they supported distributing the materials to children outside of educational contexts. Throughout, Miss Dorrington insisted that the bill is nonpartisan. She said the aim is to keep materials she deems obscene out of the hands of children she says are too young to see them. Many in the crowd scoffed when she called the bill nonpartisan. All three petitioners are Republicans. Miss Dorrington called that fact happenstance. Another protester called Miss Dorrington out for posts that attacked trans people, suggesting the petitioners cannot be trusted as nonpartisan advocates with no ulterior motives. Miss Dorrington denied any such attacks, and the crowd roared once again. One person in the hallway held up an iPad and showed the crowd Miss Dorrington's Facebook posts opposing transgender rights. Some opponents of the proposed legislation said it would lead to censoring literature and education for minority groups, like transgender people. Soon thereafter, the three petitioners decided it was time to end the discussion. As protesters and the few supporters left the building, they walked past 2 Falmouth police officers who stayed for the protest after an unrelated medical event transpired in the same building. They cited an increasing presence when explaining why they stayed at the event. Getting out of the building took some time, as the hallways and doorways could fit only 1 or 2 people side by side. But the protesters and other attendees made their way out to their cars with their homemade signs, put them back in their cars, and began to leave after the nearly 2-hour protest. The bill by request, H.2042, has made its way to the Joint Committee and the Judiciary and the General Court of Massachusetts. Of 17 members, only 3 are Republicans. State Representative David T. Vieira, Republican, Barnstable, 3rd District, presenter of the bill, says bills by request are unique to Massachusetts and allow residents to offer up legislation through their local representatives. Representative Vieira has said representatives are obligated to present those bills regardless of their support or opposition for them. Representative Vieira is not a sponsor of this bill and did not voice his position on the matter. He added that about 88% of all bills do not get a full floor vote, and that to do so, this bill would require a vote by the Judiciary Committee advancing it to such a vote. There is no established timeline for such a bill to get the required committee vote. Our next headline is Mid-Year iReady Scores Demonstrate Student Growth by Taylor Fruzzetti. Sandwich students demonstrated continued academic growth in the most recent round of iReady testing. The Sandwich School Committee reviewed iReady data comparing test scores from the fall to scores for tests taken in the winter during its meeting on Wednesday. The iReady exam is given 3 times per year to students from kindergarten to 8th grade for reading and math. It is used to determine the greatest needs throughout the district and to inform curriculum. Students are tested at the beginning of the school year, in the winter, and in the spring. The test results provide the district with up-to-date information about how well students are progressing in the core subjects. The data was categorized in the following categories: mid or above grade level, early on grade level, 1 grade level below, 2 grade levels below, and 3 or more grade levels below. Forestdale students improved math scores from the beginning of the year. The most recent results show that 33% of the students were at mid or above the grade level. 21% of students were at the early on grade level. 44% were 1 grade level below, and 1% of students were 2 grade levels below average. No students tested 3 or more grade levels below average. The fall math results for Forestdale students showed that 7% of students were at mid or above grade level. 10% of students were early on grade level. 77% of students were 1 grade level below, and 6% of students were 2 grade levels below average, and no students tested 3 or more grade levels below average. Forestdale students take an assessment called Early Bird, which is an early literacy screener in lieu of iReady. Last year, Massachusetts state law stated at early elementary you have to start assessing all kids K-3 for dyslexia. So that's why are we giving that early bird screening, Superintendent Joseph P. Marusak said. At the beginning of the year, 63% of kindergarten students were not at risk, and at risk was detected in 38% of students. The scores for tests taken in the middle of the year for kindergarten show that there was no risk detected in 86% of students, and risk was detected in 14% of students. Scores for first grade students for the test taken at the beginning of the year show that no risk was detected to 45% of students. Some risk was detected in 21% of students, and risk was detected in 34% of students. Tests taken by first graders in the middle of the year show that no risk was detected in 64% of students. Some risk was detected in 13% of students, and risk was detected in 24% of students. Tests taken by second grade students in the beginning of the year showed that no risk was detected in 63% of students. Some risk was detected in 10% of students, and risk was detected in 27% of students. Results for the test taken by second graders in the middle of the year showed that no risk was detected in 66% of students. Some risk was detected in 9% of students, and risk was detected in 25% of students. Oak Ridge students also demonstrated growth in math. The most recent results show that 30% of students tested mid or above grade level, 32% of students were at the early on grade level, 30% of students were one grade level below, 5% of students tested 2 grade levels below average, and 2% of students tested 3 or more grade levels below average. At the beginning of the year, 13% of students tested mid or above the grade level average. 26% of students were at the early on grade level. 47% of students tested 1 grade level below average. 9% of students tested 2 grade levels below average. And 5% of students tested 3 or more grade levels below average. Oak Ridge students also demonstrated improvement in reading. The most recent scores showed that 44% of students were at mid or above the grade level. 26% of students were at the early on grade level. 19% of students were 1 grade level below. 8% of students are 2 grade levels below. And 4% of students were 3 grade levels below average. At the beginning of the year, reading test results for Oak Ridge students showed that 27% of students were at mid or above grade level. 22% of students were early on grade level. 33% of students were 1 grade level below average. 11% of students were 2 grade levels below average. And 8% of students were 3 or more grade levels below average. 7th and 8th grade students at Sandwich Middle High School also demonstrated growth in math from the beginning of the year. The most recent scores indicate that 20% of students are at mid or above grade level. 34% of students are at early on grade level. 22% of students are 1 grade level below average. 7% of students are 2 grade levels below, and 16% of students are 3 or more grade levels below average. At the beginning of the year, middle school student scores for math showed that 20% of students were mid or above grade level. 25% of students were early on grade level. 29% of students were 1 grade level below. 7% of students were 2 grade levels below, and 18% were 3 or more grade levels below. Sandwich Middle High School students also demonstrated growth in reading. The most recent scores show that 40% of students are mid or above grade level. 23% of students are early on grade level. 17% of students are 1 grade level below average. 5% of students are 2 grade levels below average, and 15% of students are 3 or more grade levels below average. The test scores at the beginning of the year indicate that 30% of students are mid to above grade level, 23% of students were early on grade level, 19% of students were 1 grade level below, 7% of students were 2 grade levels below average, and 18% of students were 3 or more grade levels below average. School Committee Chairwoman Susan F. Miller noted that scores for middle school students skew more towards the yellow and red than the green when compared to the elementary school grades. "Is this something we typically see?" she asked. Dr. Maruzak said that the elementary's grades have a year or two leg up in the middle high school when it comes to taking the iReady exams. He added that the elementary grades also have a smaller group of students being tested when compared to the middle high school. Our next headline is Finance Committee Reviews School Capital Requests by Taylor Frusetti. Sandwich Public Schools Superintendent Joseph P. Maruzak presented the district's capital needs to the Finance Committee on Tuesday. The school committee reviewed 6 potential capital budget needs totaling approximately $1.1 million in February. Some of the items listed relate to safety needs, such as completing the second phase of security camera upgrades for the district totaling $225,588, and replacing interior door lock mechanisms at the high school totaling $471,899. Dr. Marusak said that while the current year's investment of $313,186 for security cameras has helped tremendously with internal coverage and infrastructure, the second will address external areas. The security camera upgrades made this year included adding 100 security cameras to the Sandwich Middle High School campus. Finance Committee member James J. Dever asked if 100 cameras would be too many. Dr. Marusak said that the cameras are placed in public places such as hallways, staircases, the cafeteria, etc. Also related to school safety is a request for the first phase of replacing all of the door locks at Sandwich Middle High School for $255,186. Dr. Marusak said that the doors currently do not have the capacity to lock from the outside and can only be locked from the inside. Finance Committee member Bob J. Gurin asked why the projects related to safety are being done in phases. Dr. Marusak said phasing the projects is due to financial reasons. I'd like to better understand why we reduced the town's capital budget by $800,000, and it's interesting to hear that we are breaking a safety and security investment at the schools into phases as a money issue, Mr. Gurin said. Additional capital requests include updating the athletic fields, such as the baseball field at Oak Ridge School, and updating the locker rooms. Dr. Marusak said some students have raised concerns with the difference between the boys' and girls' locker rooms, due to the boys' locker room being more up to date. He explained that 2 years ago the Blue Knights Gridiron Club, a nonprofit group composed of football parents, worked to revamp a portion of the boys' locker room for the varsity team. Resident Carl Johannesson wrote a letter to the Finance Committee to address a few concerns he had regarding the school's budget, similar to the questions he raised during the special town meeting held in January. Are we going to get a positive commitment from the school department that they will endorse the funding of maintenance in a manner that can be transparent to the taxpayers of Sandwich and which will be used where they say they need it? This includes the need for new heating systems that we voted on at a previous town meeting, which the school committee will spend somewhere else in the budget, he asked. Dr. Marusak noted that the questions Mr. Johannesson raised in his letter are similar to those he asked during the special town meeting. With all due respect to Mr. Johannesson, it was a garbled mix of questions, almost a borderline stream of consciousness of commentary that was filled with so many falsehoods, so many innuendos that it was absurd, Dr. Marusak said. Dr. Marusak said that the assumptions that the debt exclusion funds granted by the spring 2022 town meeting were transferred out of the budget is simply false. The district plans on pursuing the HVAC project at Oak Ridge, totaling $4,520,000, and the Forestdale boiler project, totaling $972,864 this summer. Although the initial intent was to complete HVAC and boiler projects at both schools, Dr. Marusak said that with inflation and a potential underestimation of the costs, there are not sufficient funds to complete all 4 projects this year. How many students can be enrolled in each school, and what are the total counts presently? Dr. Johansson asked in his letter. As our school enrollment continues to decline and our paying staff increases, we need to know what can be done as we transfer into the next century with our buildings, and how we look at spending millions of dollars on heating systems that the money was in place may not be needed, and the closing of one school may be the answer to consolidating what students we do have enrolled. That is why we need a verifiable actual student enrollment number for each of the 3 schools that is transparent and accurate. Although school enrollment has decreased over the years, the number of students leaving the district each year has decreased as well. The enrollment numbers included in the fiscal year 2026 budget packet, 2,185 students were enrolled in the 2022-23 school year. 2,156 were enrolled in the 2023-24 school year, and 2,149 were enrolled in the 2024-25 school year. Enrollment is projected to stay the same for the 2025-26 school year. To make a suggestion that we are going to take 3 schools and close one to save, quote, unquote, millions of dollars is also just not based on reality when we have 3 schools, One Middle High School with 880 students, the Oak Ridge School with 673 students, and the Forestdale School with approximately 570 students. Do the math. We are not in a place where we are going to close the building, Dr. Marusak said. Resident Jean J. Perini took issue with the way Dr. Marusak addressed Mr. Johansson's questions. I do not believe he should have berated Mr. Johansson the way that he did. Mr. Johansson has been a longtime resident of this town, and he is a veteran, and he should have been treated with respect. The school superintendent should have addressed Mr. Johansson's questions individually with respect, Mr. Perini said during the public comment segment of the meeting. Will the school department ensure the taxpayers of Sandwich that this new administration building we just gave them will not go into disrepair like the last one? Mr. Johansson asked in his letter. This question was not specifically addressed during the meeting. Finance Committee members wrote additional questions regarding the school's budget. Dr. Marusak provided written responses during the meeting. Finance Committee member Nancy A. Crossman followed up on one of the questions she had asked. One of the questions I asked had to do with the $250,000 that was given for the care and custody of the wing school, and I think somewhere in the answer here it says that there was a savings of $200,000 when the administration moved, she said. The original intent was that the money was supposed to be returned to the town. Even if you are using some of it for the administration building, where is the $200,000? Did that get absorbed into the budget? I am going with what I inherited as far as what the actual budget for central office administration. Nobody has ever shared with me that there was supposed to be a certain allocation that was expressly for the wing school that would be returned, Dr. Marusak said. So yes, the short answer is anything that is a savings has been absorbed into the budget. Our next article is Retailers Plan for a 6A Saturday by Taylor Frizzetti. A group of retailers located on Route 6A are looking to band together to generate more publicity for their businesses. Donna Coutil-Ross of Scenic Routes, Carissa Phillips of Wave Cape Cod, and Megan McLaughlin of Sandy Neck Provisions went to the Visitor Services Board meeting on Tuesday to request $1,000 for their efforts. The Underground Organization of Retailers is looking to host an event called 6A Saturday to highlight the small businesses on Route 6A, from the beginning of Sandwich to the end of Sandwich. The plan, which is still in the works, is to have each retailer on the route have either a food truck on site, a promotion, or something else to attract customers. The group plans to use the funds to promote the event through signs and posters. Additionally, they want to create a map of the route highlighting participating retailers. Ms. Phillips says that another aspect of the event is to have each business hand out "I shopped local" stickers inspired by "I voted" stickers. The group got the idea after collaborating together for a social media post, making light of business in the off-season, which has since gained 30,000 views. Ms. Coutil-Ross said that the group hopes to create more videos to help promote the event. So far, 13 of the 21 retailers on Route 6A have agreed to participate in the event. The group said that they decided to not go through the Sandwich Chamber of Commerce because some of the retailers they want to highlight are not chamber members, and they did not want to be restricted. The group originally planned to host the event on Saturday, June 7th, but later learned that high school graduation will be held that day. They plan to decide on another day to host the event. The next article is Select Board Reviews Town Meeting Warrant Draft by Taylor Frizzetti. Sandwich Town Manager George H. Bud Dunham presented an updated draft for the annual town meeting planned for May 5th. The first few articles are standard budgeting items such as an opioid settlement fund appropriation for outreach services, appropriation of water infrastructure investment funds balance for wastewater purposes, Sandwich Promotions Fund appropriations and more. Among the 24 articles currently on the list is a request for Community Preservation Act funds to be used for a proposed restoration project for historic Town Hall. The town recently requested to use community preservation funds to replace the windows and other restoration work for the building. A zoning amendment related to accessory dwelling units, ADU, and another for merging non-conforming lots are also being proposed. Both of the proposed changes are a result of the state's new Affordable Homes Act, which was enacted in August. Under the new law, ADUs have been made a protected class and are allowed by right, meaning a special permit is no longer required for the first accessory dwelling unit on a property. Regarding the non-conforming lots merger doctrine, changes will allow for adjacent lots under the same ownership to no longer be treated as a single lot. This allows for more single-family homes to be built. Making these changes will align the town's zoning with state law. If the amendments are not approved by town meeting, it will be difficult for the town to receive grant funding and open up the possibility for the state to sue the town. Additionally, an amendment to the town's bylaw regarding short-term rentals is being proposed. The town is looking to adopt new regulations for short-term rentals in light of the latest edition of the building code regulating short-term rentals for safety, compliance, and inspection. Under the proposed bylaw, the town would implement a registration program, meaning all short-term rentals must be registered with the town and owners must sign up for annual inspections. The proposed change is being made through a general bylaw rather than a zoning bylaw to avoid grandfathering existing short-term rentals. During a presentation on the matter at a planning board meeting on January 21st, Director of Community and Development Leanne Drake said that introducing it as a general bylaw under the select board would make it easier for the town to regulate. Special town meeting recently approved establishing a revolving fund in an effort to support the new regulations regarding annual inspection of short-term rentals. Voters will be asked to act on 2 articles related to the recently passed HERO Act. The articles include tax exemptions for disabled veterans based on varying levels of disability and motor vehicle tax exemptions for veterans. More information on the HERO Act articles will be presented. Reauthorizing the Home Rule petition for regional wastewater efforts on Joint Base Cape Cod is also currently proposed for the warrant. Mr. Dunham said that the special town meeting approved a related special act in 2022, but the act has been held up at the State House. Refiling the act might get things moving, he said. In a phone call with the Enterprise, Mr. Dunham explained that Town Council has been working to get some feedback from the state to address any concerns that might be holding back the special act from approval. If we have to re-vote it, I just thought, for our draft list, we should keep that on there, Mr. Dunham said. Adopting a provision of state law regarding nomination papers for elected office is also on the draft warrant. The change would require those interested in running for election to pick up their nomination papers 48 hours before the deadline. Accepting provisions regarding the process for the disposition of abandoned funds is also up for vote. The proposed provision allows for an alternative procedure for disposing of abandoned funds held in custody of a town. There were a lot of changes in the tax title laws last year, said Finance Director William Jennings. Most of it was not too friendly for towns. So Town Council has sent out a memo probably about 2 weeks ago and recommended that we adopt this part of Mass General Law, and this would just help the towns during that process. 2 citizen petitions will also be up for vote. One petition asks voters to consider banning the sale of nips in town, and the other proposes to restrict the use of eating utensils, condiment packets, napkins, straws, and extra food containers for takeaway customers unless specifically requested. The Select Board will continue to review the drafted warrant in coming weeks. Annual town meeting is scheduled for Monday, May 5th. Our next article is Library Considers New Acceptable Use Policy by Amy Rothman. Sandwich Public Library Director Diane Castigliola on Tuesday presented the Board of Trustees with a new acceptable use policy aimed at ensuring a safe and welcoming environment for all library patrons. Under the new guidelines, visitors will be expected to adhere to a set of behavioral expectations designed to foster a space where the community can engage with learning opportunities, cultural experiences, and personal resources. As the policy states, the measures will help maintain an open and accessible space for all. This will sort of go through some basics about how to make sure that we are constantly inviting the same welcoming environment and that we have some behavioral expectations. Ms. Castigliola began. She noted that many libraries have similar policies in place, but this will be the first such policy at the Sandwich Public Library. While the policy includes common rules seen at surrounding libraries, such as requirement for patrons to wear shoes and appropriate clothing, and a ban on tobacco, marijuana, and e-cigarette use on library grounds, it also introduces guidelines tailored specifically for Sandwich. For example, the library now requires that craft activities must be pre-approved and clarifies that patrons who lack delusional capacity must be accompanied by an adult or caregiver. The policy also emphasizes that, in accordance with Massachusetts general law, breastfeeding is allowed in any public space. Perhaps most notably, the policy addresses a range of disruptive behaviors. It prohibits threatening or harassing actions, as well as disruptive behaviors like excessive noise, physical altercations, inappropriate language, running, horseplay, and misuse of library property. It also bans excessive public displays of affection and specifies that being under the influence of drugs or alcohol is not allowed. These more specific behavioral expectations help address any potential or past issues at the library, Ms. Castigliola explained. As always, my goal is not to be exhaustive, but to make sure that we cover everything. Trustees Vice Chairman Robert Thompson raised concerns about where the policy would be made visible. Ms. Castigliola confirmed that the policy would be posted on the library's website, as well as in designated areas inside the building. Ms. Castigliola emphasized that the policy is not only about safeguarding the library's staff and patrons, but also protecting the library's resources. Chairwoman Jane Burke confirmed that the Board of Trustees will meet again at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, April 8th. The next meeting will be held at the McKnight Room at the Sandwich Public Library, 142 Main Street. Our next article is Sandwich Students Gain Professional Working Experiences by Taylor Frizzetti. Sandwich students have been obtaining real-life working experiences through the Career Exploration Program offered at Sandwich Middle High School. Students have been given opportunities to shadow professionals at their jobs, participate in internships, and take courses that directly correlate to the career that they are interested in through the Innovation Career Pathways program. It provides students with work-based applied learning experiences in high-demand industries. Currently, the school offers an innovation career pathway for computer science. The school plans to offer programs in business and healthcare next year. However, Ginger Lavelle, engineering and technology teacher and work-based learning and industry connection coordinator, said that opportunities are not being limited to only the students in the pathways. The Innovation Career Pathways program is funded through the State Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, DESE. The grants require students to obtain 100 hours of interning or work on a project with a mentor. Students have been able to shadow professionals at Cape Cod Gateway Airport, Falmouth Hospital, and Star and Fox Pediatrics. The job shadowing opportunities aim to open up the possibilities for internships in the future. Freshman Avery R. LaChance was able to shadow a doctor at Star and Fox Pediatrics. Avery said both of her parents work in the medical field, so an opportunity to shadow someone in the field piqued her interest. The most valuable thing was watching the doctor connect with their patients. In a hospital, you don't get to connect with your patients as much because you have so many patients, but she gets to see them once or twice a year, so she sees them grow until they turn 18, she said. She said the experience taught her that she wants to pursue a career in pediatrics. Junior Alexandria E. Price and sophomore Addison D. Desires are both interested in a career in aerospace. The two students were able to shadow professionals at Cape Cod Gateway Airport. It was interesting to see how the engineering principles are applied to the actual planes and aviation to really consider what you are creating has to go through, the safety precautions that they take, Alexandra said. Addison said being in the control tower and seeing all of the electronics was interesting. Senior Jonathan A. Yax is planning to shadow a professional at Cape Cod Healthcare. He has an interest in neurology because his mom was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. However, he is interested in other fields of medicine, such as oncology. What I mainly want to get out of it is to learn what I want to do, he said. I am pretty sure I want to be a physician, but I am not 100% sure, and I don't know which field of medicine I want to pursue. So I am just getting experience in different fields and feeling out the different fields before I commit to one. Junior Ella R. Millibach is an intern with Urban Greenworks, a Florida-based nonprofit organization that aims to improve access to healthy local foods, environmental education, and horticulture therapy. The internship is supported through the school's collaboration with the Work-Based Learning Alliance, a nonprofit that provides work-based learning for high school students. As a computer science student, Ella was interested in working with Urban Greenworks because the position covers computer science, business, and environmental science. She said the internship is mainly research-based. One of the biggest things I have taken away from it is professional skills. We do a lot of learning and working with our team to develop our professional skills, she said. The more connections students have to the real world, the more interested they are going to be in their studies, Ms. Lavelle said. Obituaries. Joanne Jensen. Joanne Jensen of Bourne, who leaves family in Buzzards Bay, Falmouth, and Sandwich, died on March 6th. She was 83. Born to Mabel Milan and Warren E. Fullerton II, she grew up in Whitman and graduated from Christian High School in Cambridge. She attended Eastern Nazarene College until her marriage in 1961. She worked at Edmund's Restaurant, Yangtze China Inn, and Heritage House Bookstore at the same time. After moving to Buzzards Bay, she worked at the Rosemary Inn in Wareham before she owned and operated Salt Wind's Bed and Breakfast. She was also a caretaker for many years and had a special ministry for the elderly. She also owned the Old House Antique Shop. Proud of her Irish and Swedish heritage, Ms. Jensen loved to travel, visiting 11 countries. She played the piano, loved music, entertaining, decorating, and sitting by the pool. She was also an avid Boston sports fan. She leaves her husband of 64 years, Richard E. Jensen, their children, Jane Jensen of Pennsylvania, Jeffrey Jensen of New Hampshire, and Jonathan Jensen of Buzzards Bay. 5 grandchildren, 4 great-grandchildren, and siblings Marcia Schreibner of Hanover, Sherry Fullerton of Sandwich, Suzanne Hopp of Pennsylvania, Stephen Fullerton of Falmouth, Peter Fullerton of Kansas, David Fullerton of Middleborough, and Michael Fullerton of Weymouth. She was predeceased by siblings John W. Fullerton of Georgia, Warren Fullerton of Maine, and Nan Costa of Mississippi. A funeral service will take place at 11 a.m. today at the Bourne Methodist Church, 37 Sandwich Road. Burial will be private. Elliot R. Whitten. Elliot R. Whitten of Falmouth died at home on February 27th. He was 90. Born to Franklin P. and Priscilla D. Collier Whitten of Braintree, he graduated from Braintree High School in 1952, where he was an outstanding athlete who played multiple sports. As a youth, he spent summers in Dennisport camping with his family at BHS. He met Claire E. DeLaury. They were married for 62 years before she died in 2017. Mr. Whitten learned auto mechanics working part-time at a gas station in Weymouth Landing. After high school, he attended East Coast Aero Technical School, where he was certified in aircraft maintenance. He then began a nearly 40-year career as an aircraft mechanic and inspector, first at Northeast, Yellowbird Airlines, and then Delta Airlines. He retired in 1992. He held a real estate license and was a member of the Braintree Jaycees. He was once recruited by the Boston Patriots to be a punter. In retirement, he and Miss Whitten moved to the Falmouth home that he built by hand in Falmouth in the mid-1970s. He enjoyed teaching auto repair classes, fishing, and traveling. He leaves his children, Judy Whitten of Plymouth, Jill Coyle and her husband, John of Braintree, Jane Sutherland and her husband, Brian of Plymouth, and Janine Petralia and her husband, Mark of Sandwich. 5 grandchildren, 4 great-grandchildren, and many nieces and nephews. In addition to his wife, he was predeceased by a son, E. Robert Whitten, Jr., and siblings Cynthia and David Whitten. A celebration of life will be held later in the spring. Louis A. Costello. Louis Augustine Costello of Sandwich died on March 8th. He was 89. A Mass will be celebrated at 11:30 a.m. today at Corpus Christi Catholic Church in Sandwich. A graveside service at the Massachusetts National Cemetery in Bourne will follow at 1:30 p.m. Stanley W. Lucas. Stanley W. Lucas of Sandwich died on March 11th. He was 79. Visiting hours will be held on Tuesday, March 18th from 9 to 10:30 a.m. at Nickerson Bourne Funeral Home in Sandwich. A funeral mass will be celebrated at 11 a.m. that day at Our Lady of Hope Catholic Church in Barnstable, and a burial will follow at 12:45 p.m. at Massachusetts National Cemetery. Lucille M. Farrar. Lucille M. Farrar of Forestdale died on March 6th following a lengthy illness. She was 83. She was an avid gardener. Miss Farrar leaves her children, her sisters, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. She was predeceased by her husband, Richard B. Farrar, in 2022. Services will be private. Other obituaries. Donald W. Anderson, 92, of Bourndale, died on March 5th. John M. Connolly, 81, of Falmouth, died on March 5th. Paul T. Costello, 85, of East Falmouth, died on March 8th. Mary King Frothingham, 96, of Mashpee, died on December 21st. Charles A. Gabelman, 100, of Buzzards Bay, died on March 5th. Suzanne Nostopelius, 85, of North Falmouth, died on March 9th. Beverly J. La Flamboy, 87, of Falmouth, died on February 28th. Burton R. Liebman, 93, of Mashpee, died on March 5th. Stephen D. Moran, 73, of Dover, Delaware, died on June 19, 2024. Stephen J. Rodriguez, 72, of Mashpee, died on March 9th. Judith M. Rosado, 68, of T-Ticket, died on March 8th. Susan Thompson, 81, of Falmouth, died on January 29th. Albert S. Valentino, 94, of New Seabury, died on March 5th. That's all I have time for. This is Shannon, your reader, wishing you have a wonderful, wonderful week. Thank you so much.